chance to interview the filmmakers and cast for this movie, and they were all a delight. Such wonderful people. And I'll put a link down below in the comment section to those interviews, because I wish I'd talked to them before I watched the movie, because it did make me appreciate it a little bit more. So if you want to have, I think, the best time possible watching this, you should watch those interviews first. Because some of the things they were trying to accomplish with this movie, they didn't actually quite accomplish. So I think it's good to kind of know where they were coming from going in, so you can meet them halfway. So there's a famous quote that this movie made me think of. You don't have to run faster than the bear to get away. You just have to run faster than the guy next to you. And that should totally be the tagline of this movie. There were so many guys that died so that Naru could live. And I don't really get the feeling that she was appreciative of that, felt bad about it, or even like a smidge guilty. And I don't even think in some ways she was even really aware of it. She was just convinced that she was this great hunter. And I'm like, don't you see all these other guys who are dying for you? And that's how you're getting away? I mean, to be fair, she really shines in the third act. That was impressive and very clever. But up until then, it's all just luck, other characters' sacrifice, intentional and unintentional. It's not like these guys are all very chivalrous. And then also plot armor. Lots of plot armor, boy. Woo! The most formidable plot armor I've ever seen. It also bothered me quite a bit that her brother is so supportive of her, and yet I feel she never really appreciates him. Like, I get sibling rivalry, totally, but I just don't think their relationship was well balanced enough to make her as likable as they could have made her. You know, I think I would have sure made him likable, because he's just such a wonderful guy. But I felt like she didn't appreciate him enough. And certain things about the ending just really bothered me. I was like, that's super uncool. Now, sure, there's the final girl trope, and Naru is totally a final girl, and very effectively, I have to say. But instead of her simply being the last one standing, again, it almost became comedic how she not only let all these guys die so that she could live, but it wasn't even, she was kind of responsible also. You were like, I don't believe most of this would have happened if she hadn't poked the predator, so to speak. I don't even know if he would have bothered them. So that was kind of crazy. So if you can get past that, how's the rest of the movie? It's slow, man. It's real slow. And I'm sure some people will be like, but this is cinema, Grace. Can a Predator movie really be cinema? Should it be cinema? And some of you might be like, yes, I want a Terrence Malick directed Predator movie. But I would say your numbers are probably small. And I think that the Disney Fox, Disney, this is part of what they got when they acquired 20th Century. I think they looked at this movie and they were like, I think the number of people who are going to be really into this is small, so let's stick it on Hulu. This movie's just not commercial enough to make it in theaters. I'm not at all surprised that it went to streaming. I've seen some people though be like, why is this on streaming? It should be on the biggest screen possible. So I'm sure that some of you are going to be like, I loved it. But I think your numbers will be small. But that doesn't mean they won't be potent. I'm sure a number of you will be very, aggressively defensive of this movie. But as they said in Inside Llewyn Davis for another quote, I just don't see a lot of money here. The action scenes and cool shots, of which there are some, but not enough. They're far and few between. And I also feel the movie is super low on atmosphere. If you're going to make a movie about Native Americans versus a predator, don't kid yourself. That's Pocahontas meets Alien. That's what you're going for. And I think that they pulled back on that too much in favor of intellectualism. Again, you're making a Predator movie, right? I got the chance, as I said, to interview director Dan Trachtenberg, and he had some really interesting things to say about how poorly Native Americans have been portrayed in Hollywood through the decades. It's very interesting when you talk to the directors and the talent on these movies. You almost feel like you're in the pitch room for how they get the gig to make the movie. And you're like, oh yeah, that is really cool. Oh, I think that would be neat if you did that. But it's weird to have seen the movie and be like, you didn't totally do that. So it's cool you wanted to, but it didn't really work out. He read some really interesting comments about The Searchers and how Native Americans, again, have been really poorly portrayed in Hollywood throughout the decades. And he's totally right about that. And he wanted to fix that with this movie. But I'd be like, The Searchers was like in Technicolor, right? I mean, like there was a grand, I mean, this is not like, it could have been The Searchers meets Aliens. They could have done that. He could have done that, but I don't think he did that either. So it just, to me, it was not effective. It just wasn't effectively done, even though I liked what the intention was, let's say. So, I mean, I think what would really help Native Americans in Hollywood, just like any group, is to give them a successful movie. You don't want to have a mediocre movie where people go, well, at least it has this representation going for it. And again, the third act is much better. There is, for instance, a very cool long take fight with Naru that Amber Midthunder told me all about. She walked me through how they did it, and it was really cool how they did it. That's another reason to watch those interviews, because you'll appreciate that even more. Although I did like it just when I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, that's a long take fight, right? Like it dawned on me while I was watching it, and I was like, that's cool. And the big final fight, also, like I said, very clever. And it made me take notice. I actually sat up and I was like, okay, you do have something here. So you have to decide if you want to sit through the rest of the movie to get to that. And I think that the answer to that question depends a lot on how big of a Predator fan that you are. Midthunder is certainly a captivating leading lady, and she effortlessly holds the screen and your attention. But she has a very modern quality to her, so it often made the film seem more like a historical reenactment than a period piece. And she just didn't fit the aesthetic of the rest of the movie. Like, it's a super serious, stripped-down aesthetic, and yet here you have an actress who's more fitted for like a sci-fi blockbuster. So again, it was like something that created a disjointed feel. Dakota Beavers, though, in his first ever acting gig, makes a big splash. He was really impressive, and I hope he gets a lot of work off of this. Really shined. I think Trachtenberg, to be fair, does have some really good ideas as a director, and I said there are cool shots and ideas here and there. But he really needed to load this up with a ton of cool stuff to make up for a really bare and stripped down script. Because again, the kind of movie he's making, I think maybe maybe now that I think about it, to some degree his problem is that he just couldn't decide if he was making like a Terrence Malick Predator movie or Pocahontas meets Alien. I think, he tried to have his cake and eat it too, and so it's just, a sugary mess. Like, also, his color palette is too dull for a popcorn franchise, and it takes too long for the really cool Dayglow green Predator blood, that's so cool, to show up and literally brighten up the movie. For a while, also, the movie focuses on the overall food chain. These cool shots of different types of predators and their prey. Like, this is the circle of life, man. And I was like, okay, where are you going with this? And it turns out, nowhere. They had nothing to, they kind of lost that thread totally. They had nothing interesting to say about it. It just, I was like, why do we do that? Because it's like pseudo-intellectualism, I'm afraid. Finally, as the fifth Predator movie, the seventh, if you're counting crossovers with the Alien franchise, I think we need to learn a bit more about the Predators themselves already, as after a while, a mysterious, unstoppable killing machine just gets boring and repetitive. I mean, ask Michael Myers. This feels a lot like, remember like the new Michael Myers movies, the new Halloween movies were supposed to be very intellectual and really well filmed, and at first it was like, oh, okay, cool, and now we're kind of like, come on, man, do something. And I think that, I don't even think this franchise gets one of these movies in successfully before that feeling starts to take over. But to be fair, I'm not a huge Predator fan. So for those of you who are hardcore Predator fans, this might be just what you're looking for. You might be like, I loved it. And that's great. I hope you have a good time. But again, I don't see a lot of money here. So that's my review of Prey. In my opinion, your standard, mediocre, but watchable streaming movie. You know what I'm talking about. It's more of the same. And I think its target audience is the franchise's remaining loyal fan base. And let's see if it's enough for you. If you're not into Predator, go watch something else. Unless, it's a Prey movie. I think the trailer is pretty good. It's going to be hard for you not to watch it, but I warned you. All right, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.